Welcome to the AAA, also known as the AAA podcast, where we talk everything AA from alcoholism to recovery. I'm your host, Joe Van.
Hey, how's it going? It's D.
And welcome back to another episode. This is episode 5, so we're just chugging along here. Now, before we get into it, we got today's sponsor, and today's sponsor is a classic. If you're a Canadian, it's X-Copper, keeping you from drunk driving, getting all those tickets removed, so you can just keep hitting the road.
They just literally you go from 0 to hero in no time.
Yeah, it's incredible. But anyway, so we're going to hit you guys with another two-parter on this episode. We're going to be doing step 6, but also step 7, because the two are tightly related. It's one of those double-parter where you're like, is that really 2 steps, or is it just one, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah. So if you guys are ready,
let's get right into it.
I guess first we'll say what the steps are, and then we can just take it from there.
Yeah, let's get right into it. And we love a good two-parter. Oops, sorry guys, dropped my pen.
No, it's
But
okay.
we love a good two-parter.
Yeah, it helps the flow of the steps, and plus also it leads to better conversations because you can get more out of it, right?
Yeah.
People can comment on it more. You can get discussions going that you can bring into the future episodes. It's the best way to do it.
Right? And I feel like at the same time too, it's like, why not hit? What's the term? Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Wait,
Yeah.
that's really mean. I don't mean to kill any birds, but it's just like
Oh
let's hit some
no!
birds.
Okay,
Knock some birds down,
I
2
think
birds
there's an
with 1 stone.
alternate version of that, which
Can
is
we
like
go with something nicer? Yeah.
I forget what it is. It's really dumb. It's not a good one. We should make a better one. But yeah, I think
I'm not trying to kill any birds. Like what?
Yeah. But there are alternates to that.
Yeah.
We'll
Well, we're
find
trying to
those
just
as
hit
well.
up 2 birds with 1 stone, y'all. We're just trying to give them a little
We're
knocking.
trying to feed
Like,
2
hello,
birds
hi, how y'all
with 1
doing?
seed, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Split a seed in half. You already know.
But yeah, so without any further ado, step 6 is we were made entirely ready to have God remove all of these defects of character, which is a sort of follow-up to step 5, which is admitting to God the exact nature of our wrongs. So step 6 is being entirely ready to have these defects of character removed, which in one word is acceptance. And then step 7 is humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings, which in one word is advance,
Correct.
which is also the name of this episode.
Yes.
Accept and
and
advance.
advance.
Exactly.
Yes. We love a good accept and we love a good advance. Double
Yeah.
it up. Like we love it.
This is another one of those steps that is just a human problem. It's a human issue. It isn't
Yeah.
necessarily an AA one. It obviously ties very neatly into alcoholism or addiction as a whole, but just for everybody. It's one of the greatest illusions of this world, something that we all try to clasp onto, is this idea of control. And
It's all about control. That's the thing is we often find that when we don't have control, that's when things are going nowhere good.
yeah,
Essentially.
everything's going wrong if you don't have control.
It's all about control.
There are very few people in this world that revel in chaos. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like most, it's the one constant in this world is that the pursuit of happiness is found by grasping onto the illusion of control.
I love that so much. Like, I
And-
love that word so much. It's literally, I live by that word control. Like, my friend actually, one of my really close friends, she actually got that tattooed. Just the word control tattooed on her. Because we
Nice.
just I didn't commit to it, but
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
timing is everything. So it's like, because I really, I think to be able to, this is the thing, like, majority and probably why we were alcoholics was because we didn't have control.
Yeah,
Simple
which
as
is the
that.
funniest thing because being an alcoholic is the opposite of control. You have no control over your desires. You're just locked into constantly waiting until the next time you can drink, and just having that be the main focus and goal of your life is to drink. Even though you're not consciously doing that necessarily, but it's like you have no control over the fact that you just are waiting to drink again, and then when you're drinking, you're satisfied until you're not drinking anymore. It's the craziest thing.
And it's also like, it's just your mind is telling you one thing, right? Like when you're drinking, you have to remember these things are essentially clouding your brain and your functions to make you think a certain way. So you may think you're in control, but I can say that when I had gotten it, for instance, if I'm out somewhere and I disagree with someone's conversation in the group, I may think that this argument is getting somewhere and things like this, and I have to state my point, and that I may be in control of my actions. And right now I'm doing that little, what is this called?
Air quotes.
I'm doing air quotes right now because you may think you're in control, but that doesn't mean you're in control. And that's what alcohol does. It makes you think that maybe, yeah, oh, I'm so in control right now. I can just grab a couple of this, go watch this, oh, you know, I can just order another 8 ounce. It's like this, whatever the equation may be. You may think you're in control, but really, this is where it comes down to this episode, is accepting
the fact that you're not. Character defects 101 is just it's the whole idea of like, it's the same, aside from applying this to alcoholism and addiction in general, also people who through accident or what they think is on purpose, slowly growing their ego is another form of manipulating yourself into thinking you have control. A lot of people can do that, where as soon as they, and this is like the old 1950s nuclear family, where if a male in America is able to find a woman and make him theirs, which is a very controlling scenario, where they're now your household wife, like this utility in your life rather than an entire person.
Yeah, like
and
a
then
real human
you make a
being.
family, and those kids are yours. They're your property as well, and the house is under your name, and you have the majority income. Obviously, this isn't a reality at all anymore, but this was the majority reality in America in the 50s up to like the 70s or 80s. And the entire thing is an illusion. But it's an illusion that held for so long. It took so long for that to slowly break apart with just everyone fighting for more equal rights instead of it just being a male-dominated scenario. It's like...
And it's still such a big thing, right?
It's still an
such a
issue.
big
We still
thing.
haven't reached equal yet as far as that goes in society. But the reason why it was happening was because the people with all the power were under this illusion of control, and they were thinking this is how you get it, by just dominating. And it's like, and it didn't work, because if it did, we would still be under that and everyone would be happy. But people were not happy.
It's very, very.
And things needed to
you
change.
think again. You just want to be in control, right?
Yeah.
Everybody just wants to be in control of things, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're in control. Like you're saying, it's one thing to perceive that you're in control of things, but that is like,
not there.
like I imagine like, I know somebody that is not from Canada, from Russia, and that whole kind of lifestyle essentially of they're being brought up into a household where their father does everything and pretty much just dominates the mom, everything, the household, everything, right? To the point where he becomes abusive. Because he has so much power, he's in so much control that essentially he can control anything he likes. But again, with everybody, there's different equations in different situations, to the point where he's in so much control where he drinks very heavily. He drinks very heavily. So this can now equal out to something even worse than it did. And what ended up happening was he had an affair, and he ended up passing out, blacking out like on the side of a road somewhere, and eating poisonous mushrooms.
Really? What?
Yeah, so he was basically dying, and somebody had found him on the way, emergency, and that's how his life got saved.
That's insane.
And because of that happening, he had to like admit about the affair that he had, because he like literally was like life or death experience kind of thing, right? So it's like, and it's just like so much can happen, and of course him, like my friend and his dad there was huge altercations and things like this, and this person hates this person, yada yada. But eventually, it comes to the point where they're at an even ground now, and things are getting better. But the main thing was the dad had said was the alcohol was what really had like having so much power, right, and having all that control really almost made him lose control in a sense, right?
Yeah,
and you know what I mean?
He needed to give all of that power to something else, and he gave it to alcohol.
Yeah, and it almost just flipped absolutely everything, where you just destroyed your whole family almost.
Yeah.
And because they're just in that country where it's very normal for that kind of lifestyle.
There's no such thing as AA as far as I know.
Yeah.
Or at least if it is, it's only recent. Yeah.
So it's just like it's very hard, and it's like depending on where you're growing up and things like that, it's not easy to accept those things.
Yeah. Yeah, and just as you were saying, how once he was in that life and death scenario, he finally admitted
Accepted. That
to
was the acceptance.
yeah, he finally admitted to all these things that he was holding on to, an affair and the drinking and
Abuse
everything.
and like treating his family a certain way, and even just treating his own body that way, where it's just like
He was like, I can't. Yeah, as soon as you
basically
get that
dead.
flash of death, you realize everything that you're doing that you thought you were in control about was all just essentially a farce. Me finally ending my pattern of alcohol abuse to myself was the same thing. I had slowly developed this schedule that was the whole, oh, I'm in complete control because on this day I'm doing this and on this day I'm doing that, and I've chosen this and nothing is breaking this pattern,
Control.
and I've done it. I now have this control.
that says control all over it. Control, control, control. But does
And
it really?
No,
You're gonna say, yep.
because why? What was my motivation for doing that? To drink? Why was my
Just the
motivation
drink.
to drink? Because the alcohol. It's like, and
The cloud.
I may or may not have said this in a previous episode, but the man takes a drink, the drink takes a drink, and then the drink takes the man, and that's what happened to me until the point where I had an emotional breakdown, and then as soon as that happened, I just admitted to everything, to everyone that
Exactly.
was in my life, and said I need help. And I've needed help this whole time without realizing it because I was completely blind to the fact that I had completely lost control.
It's literally like it's like when even too with the life and death situation, it's the same thing that kind of happened with me where it was like I got so wasted, woke up the next day, had no remembrance of like where I parked my car, everything. It was like it literally I could have woken up in the hospital. It's the same thing. It's just because I had no remembrance of what I had done prior because I was so intoxicated. When you think I'm so in control right now that I can get behind a vehicle, like that's when you know you have a problem. And for instance, you may think that you are good and like you can get behind a car, but then you wake up the next day in your right mind and you realize I don't even remember getting in the car. So were you really in control? No, you weren't. You were just clouded by a substance that think you're in control. And I think with males, for instance, it's we don't like to hide our emotion. We like to hide our emotions. We don't like to show our emotions, and that's where it could very, very come down to. Each equation is going to be different, but it's very common for I think men to kind of bottle their emotions, and when they drink they end up taking it out on other things, or
It explodes.
right, it explodes. And that's what
Yeah.
where a life and death situation can really be really be like something you have to really be careful, and don't want to lose your life over something so minuscule that
An example that comes to mind, and it comes to mind because of how recent I had just watched this movie Waves. Have you seen the movie?
no I haven't what is it called?
Waves.
Waves.
It came out last year, so it's very recent. It's a drama. It's a family drama. And so I'm going to give mild spoilers.
Waves.
So I apologize for everyone who has not yet seen Wave, but who is interested. And hopefully this doesn't
Wave.
ruin the experience for those who are like, I'm going to listen to it anyway, but I still want to see the movie. In the movie Waves, there's a family where the mom had died early on, and there were two kids, and the father had remarried. And so there's that very slight modicum of like, this isn't right, or this isn't my mom kind of thing. And we're following the son for the first half of the movie. And the second half of the movie is very sweet, where you follow the daughter of the family and see her life and how her life kind of builds up. But for the first half of the movie, you're following this son who is working out constantly because he's in competitive wrestling in high school, and he's like about to graduate. He's 18, and he has a girlfriend, and he's popular, and he has all these things. But his shoulder starts to hurt, and he goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, I've never seen an injury this bad before. You've been working this for months to the point where your shoulder, you're never going to be able to use again if you don't stop right now.
Oh my God.
And he's like, the season just started in wrestling. He's like, can I just do it later? And he has this narrative in his head that he's going to keep going until it's convenient enough to stop. And the doctor's like, you have to stop right now, and this is going to take longer than just the summer to heal. This is going to take almost
like
a year.
you just right, yeah.
And his father's really hard on him because they come from a black household, and he says it's 10 times harder for us than anyone else in America. So you have to give more. And so it built in the mentality in his son that you don't stop even when things hurt. And just because it hurts, it's like you have to work so much harder just to get to the same level. So the son is just in complete denial that he's going to stop, even though the doctor's telling him, like,
No, you
you
can't.
destroyed your shoulder. If you do something to it, if you go to the next fight, you're going
It's
to
your
do
career.
something irremovable. You're going to destroy your shoulder, yeah. and then but he ends up doing it anyway, and then it just ruins him, and he like can't even look at his dad's eyes because his dad's like so
my
hard on him
God.
all the time, and he sees his son fail in the match or whatever, and then he finds out that his girlfriend's pregnant, and he's like, we're in high school, like you're gonna get an abortion, right? And she's like, no, like I can't do it, like I just I'm gonna keep it, and he's like, no, and he's losing all this control, his own body, the respect of
man,
his
that's so
father,
awful.
the idea that his girlfriend's not gonna do what he wants and get an abortion, is that she's gonna keep the child,
And then now he
and
has a
so
child coming
he's
in
lost
and all this stuff.
all this control, and instead of him being able to accept it, he goes on a rampage,
Yep.
and he drinks and smokes and gets messed out of his mind and goes driving and goes to the party with his girlfriend's at, and then essentially ruins his life, and then that's when the perspective changes to see what his sister has been witnessing this whole time,
Wow.
and how you can ruin your life under the illusion
Yeah.
of control and thinking that there isn't a problem when there is one,
Yeah.
and not being able to just stop for a second and just think, and we've mentioned this on previous episodes, is to just stop and reflect and just think about your life and look at it for a second,
Accept.
and be able to accept the fact that like there are faults, we all have faults, and we're not in control of so many aspects of our lives, and the best thing that we can do is accept the fact that we don't,
It's the best thing.
that we have certain issues, or that we're not in control of however many aspects of our lives, and that accepting that is the path to happiness, not going against the current and trying to control these things.
Yeah. And
Like-
because you won't be able to, like, for instance, you're not going to be able to advance because you're going against the current, right?
Yeah,
it's a
you're
lot
going
easier to
backwards
go
without
with,
even
like
realizing.
able to advance, you need to accept that the current is going a certain way, right?
Yeah, and to go with it.
Exactly. Because it's, what is it? You can catch more, like, something with the honey. and
Oh
the bees,
yeah,
all that
yeah,
jazz.
yeah. You can catch
Something
more
like
flies
that,
with
something like
honey
that.
than with vinegar.
Yeah, something like that.
You can go, you can go farther against the stream than for it. And this isn't to say that always take the easiest path, and whenever something seems hard, you should give up.
Yeah.
Not that. It's more seeing that a certain way is clearly the wrong way, and being able to
like
accept
clearly it's
that
not
there is a right way and a wrong way, and to just
And that's really hard for a lot of people, like including like myself. I can still, like, to this day, it's hard to really separate that point of, do I have a problem? But you have to, again, watch yourself, and watch the things that you're doing in your everyday life to get that to be able to reflect. Listen to our previous episodes on the reflection and things like this. When you're doing these type of things, you're going to understand that, okay, this is a scenario that I was in that I don't like the way it happened. I got into this argument, didn't like the way that happened. Or, for instance, it's going to be a different scenario for anybody. But for me, for instance, it was like one day I'm drinking too much and I got into an argument with somebody, and now I'm getting behind a vehicle. That is not okay on any circumstances. So it's like you need to
by your own circumstances.
Yeah, like it's like that.
Especially when you don't agree with something you did. It's like that's when you got to draw the line.
So accept that, and now you need to advance and move on so that doesn't repeat itself. Because then it could be a life or death situation. It could be really, again, the equation could be different. But for me, that could be a life or death situation where it's not only endangering my life, it's endangering someone else's life, and that is not okay on any circumstance. So figure out what that you like. And this is what even too is like so interesting, because for some people, they can drink and it's like, I'm fine.
Then after 4 beers, they're done, and they don't want anymore.
I'm fine.
And they're just like,
It's
"All
not
right,
the
that's
same
not
for
right."
everyone. Yeah, it's not the same for everyone. And that's where equations will be different. So really just adjust and figure out in your lifestyle what you're lacking and what you need more of, kind of thing. And I think that everybody, closing this up, is everybody kind of needs more happiness. Find things that make you happy on the inside. That is what essentially will have longevity in the long run and give you that energy to accept those certain things that are, say, for instance, a negative point in your life, because you may think it's a negative point in your life. So, for instance, this perfect example of this movie Wave is he has something negative happen to him where he thinks he's on top of the world. His shoulder now is not working to its full capacity. He makes this decision and still goes with his feeling, and now has to go down a black hole, essentially, to bring himself back up to make himself even a stronger character than he was before he went with the arm, correct?
Yeah. Well, he is reprimanded significantly in the end from outside sources. It's one of those things where let's say you're like, I'm gonna, I like the idea of becoming an architect, and then you learn that there's a lot of math involved, and you have to have a lot of skill with measurements of blueprints and stuff like that, and you go, I know, I like the idea more than that, but I'm still gonna keep trying, and then these hurdles keep coming where then the teacher says, no, this isn't working out, like this isn't exactly your strong suit, but I do notice that you're really creative with the drawing, like you should try to get into art or something like that, right? Like you could work in illustration or something. And you go, no, like I'm gonna, and you keep trying to fight this current where clearly you have strengths somewhere else that you would notice if you took the time to reflect, but you just keep fighting it and fighting it and fighting it, and you don't see that there are clearly strengths that you have and weaknesses you have. Like for me, one obvious example is that when I drink, I just can't stop.
Same.
And it goes with a lot of things. My control issue, or my lack of control that I have, is with drinking. It can be with smoking. I can like chain smoke and not even realize if I smoke cigarettes. It can be watching TV shows. I just won't stop. If I get a video game, I won't drink water. I won't go to the bathroom. I'll just play it for like 6 to 8 hours. Like
I do that with work.
I binge everything.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Like, why does that happen?
So that's clearly an issue that I have that I have no control over. And so instead of trying to fight that, like instead of repeating the pattern and just continuing to like hurt my own life and my own situations, where my happiness is found when I put in hard work, like physical labor always makes me happy. Feeling accomplished makes me happy. And then just having loving relationships and just laughing with the people that I enjoy spending time with. So it's like these are clear things that I want, very specific things. And then when I do other things that seem to be that way, like I like video games and I love TV shows, but there are certain ways to go about doing that. Like maybe I'll only watch TV shows with my girlfriend because then there's a stopper on it. Because if I just watch it alone, won't get any sleep. Yeah, the sun will start coming up, right?
Yeah, so that's
little things like that where you can find a way to advance. Once you understand your defects, you can find a way to advance in your life where, you can.
And I think that's the issue with what that was happening with the boy is he wasn't understanding the defects. Is he kind of learned it the hard way essentially.
Yeah.
But in the long run though, he is going to be a stronger character than he was before he stepped into, like, so for instance, he's a wrestler, right? And his arm is messed up. You're thinking the character is in one mindset and they're strong and they're in control.
That's their entire identity almost, is the physique of their body.
Exactly. But in the end of the movie, I'm sure he's almost 10 times stronger in the mind and from experience and things like this.
I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, I've never seen the movie, just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just
exactly.
trying to assume, like...
Get the best grasp on the idea. So I'm going to tell you. It's very unfortunate what happens.
I'm so excited.
So this is even bigger spoilers,
Spoiler alert,
if not
guys.
before.
If you guys want to hear this, you jump off right now.
So in the movie Waves, he drinks a lot. He smokes a lot. He drives crunk to the house party where his girlfriend is at. And he sees her walking around with a boy.
Okay.
And he confronts her once she's alone and she goes to the garage to grab beers. He says, "You're pregnant and you're drinking? And also, did you fuck that guy?" And like all this stuff. And she's like, "I'm grabbing drinks for my friends. And also, if you're talking about that guy I was with, he's been my best friend since elementary school and he's gay. And you would know that about me if you spent more time with me instead of just everything being about you. And you can't even see that about yourself." And then they get in this fight and she's like slapping him in the face. And then he slaps her back and she hits her head on the concrete and accidentally bleeds to death by the concussion. And then so he goes to jail for life. It's terrible, I know. There's the whole movie of Waves. Still watch the movie. I swear it's worth watching the movie regardless of knowing it.
Wow.
So he clearly has learned his lesson because now he's never doing competitive wrestling again. He's never going to see his family again. But
that's great.
Because it's murder of the second degree, he gets the ability for parole after 30 years.
But it was an accident though.
Yeah, but he tried to run after. So it changes from manslaughter to second degree once you show intent to not... Because
So
it's ill intent after the fact. So even though before the fact it wasn't premeditated.
Okay, so essentially, guys, you don't want to end up in jail, or you don't want to end up
anyone.
dead.
You don't want to kill anyone. You don't want to spend the rest of your life
Behind
paying
bars.
for the defects that you could have found yourself beforehand, rather than having someone else find it for you.
Yeah. So he literally was just going upstream the whole movie, and then it didn't even help.
And then he hit a rock.
Just then he hit a rock and then died.
Yeah.
Literally in jail. So like that's an example of
It's
if
a
you keep
cautionary
pushing, keep pushing up the stream and see how far you'll get.
Yeah.
You won't get that far.
Yeah.
You will not.
It's unfortunate how it works because you can see that in so many people. And this, I'll give another example. And this one, I won't mention any names, but it's a friend of a friend of mine. I'll say it like that.
I love that. Yeah.
Well, a friend of a friend's boss, per se, right? So that way, it's very far removed. If this person is real, I'll just say that much. She is, a woman who is in her late 40s, so she's been alive for a long time.
Okay.
The older people get, the more solidified their identities become. That's just a matter of fact of how routines work in one's life, right? There are still tons of people later in life that are able to change their lives, but usually it's solidified once you're an adult. And this individual is very, very nice to you when you first meet, and then they become extremely problematic and create issues out of nothing and just become a nightmare person. And they'll just make a fight with you for saying hello. So I looked it up because I care about this person who has this boss. And it's called... What is it called?
That boss has some energy. They need to...
Yeah, a lot of negative energy. Clearly the person has issues and they're not dealing with it.
Yeah, and they're just...
And they're in complete denial of their own life. And yeah. And what's it called? High conflict personality.
Yeah,
the person has
hard.
A high conflict.
It's really hard.
Where they'll just... The closer you are to the person, the meaner they are to you. So they're not even mean to strangers. They're not even like the asshole that'll cut you off on the highway. They're not that person. They're perfectly fine. But to the people who they become closer to, they just will start fights with them and just get angry and they will ruin your life. And it's so strange how that old saying, you always hurt the ones you love, can be applied in such a domestic term of like someone's boss, right? A work relationship where that someone can act so unprofessionally. But it's nuts. And it's like, yeah, that individual is the most clear-cut case of someone who is in complete denial of their own defects without realizing it. And is someone where the closer you get to them, where you might be able to tell them that they have these defects, because obviously they won't listen to you if it's a stranger, right? Like if I told this person's boss, the person's boss would be like, why are you all of a sudden being mean to me? And they would say, you don't know me and all this stuff. And they just wouldn't take what you say seriously. So the only person they would take seriously is someone that knows them better. But that's the person where they would be the most combative and nasty to. And then they would start spitting insults at that person, right? And it would just be the worst thing ever. So it's like...
That's why I don't drink, for instance. Because if I were to meet that person and I was drinking, it would be over. Yeah, exactly. Literally, it'd be over.
Two
like it's done.
People
because I can't stand people like that. Already, see, like this is, for instance, this is a sign right here. It's this. I, for instance, don't work well with those type of people. Because you clearly have an issue that you need to work out. I clearly have an issue that I needed to work out, and it was a drinking issue. So therefore, those things would make me that's literally why that person reminds me of someone that's why I got into that argument at the bar, for instance.
Yeah.
Drove home, insulted the person even more because we're just gonna come home and drink even more, right? Because we just love to drink. So it's like after you go from the bar, you come home with your buddies, you drink even more. We're drinking, and I'm still going off.
And now things are just getting worse.
To the point where he's out. He's like, I'm out of here. And I feel so bad because I'm around other people. So you just insulted somebody that they walked out of your house.
Yeah.
You're okay with that? And it's like, oh my goodness. And you start thinking in your head, oh my goodness. Da, 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 da.
And you're like, clearly, there's something happening
because
I may not be aware of.
Because this person is not okay in their situation. And I know because I know this person. So it's like this person in their everyday life is not the happiest. But if they're not the happiest, they need to make change is the thing, right? And that's why that person is acting that way. And that's why I, for instance, will have to separate myself from that and not drink and things like that. That made me realize it. And because I cannot deal with those type of things, because what gives you that entitlement, what gives you that right to treat someone that way because you are not okay in your life, right?
Yeah, that's the only way that people are nasty towards other people. There's never a scenario like being a police officer is a perfect example, because I have a friend of mine that recently got into the force. He's dealing with domestic. Most of the crime that happens, like where he's in St. Catharines is his
Okay.
area. Most of the crime that happens is domestic. It's not like robberies or drug deals. It's mostly domestic disputes that are happening, and he has to be the mediator that gets in there to just stop the fight instead of arresting someone. That's the main priority.
Yeah.
And so he goes into people's households all the time and is just
Mediate, like being a
has
babysitter.
to like just take bullets from both sides, jump into the crosshairs of a fight, and be like, and has to be this calm voice among the storm of like, the issues that you're dealing with have clearly escalated to where neither of you are able to see the other person's perspective
Yeah.
on the matter, and you need to admit that maybe you're wrong, or maybe you know it's
That's
like,
where that boss, for instance, has that issue. That
yeah,
the
where
boss
they
has
can
that
be
issue.
wrong, and they think that they're right about everything that they do.
And what they do is they beat you up with insults and things like this, so that makes
Yeah.
them bigger and better and whatever. It's like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
need to,
putting
when you
other
go
people down.
home, you clearly have a lot of issues. Because, for instance, think of it as I'm an argumentative person that's arguing with these type of people, but I'm going home and I'm drinking like crazy. So clearly I have an issue. But that's how I know that that person has an issue, and that's why that person would not mesh well with my personality, because I'm very much similar to that person. Without consciously like knowing it, but even though you do know it, you know what I mean? When you think you're in control, but you're not.
That's
You
usually
think,
when
you know
you're
what I
not.
mean? Yeah.
If
But
anything,
you're not.
that's a good sign that you're not. And, which sounds like contradictory, or can sound contradictory to some people listening to this right now. Like, the hell are you talking about? When I think I'm in control, that's when I'm in control. But it's like my understanding
shaded, man.
of
You're
life
shaded.
life in general is that the fact that I was born in Canada, for example, and the fact that I was born into a middle class life is not based on anything I deserved. It was pure luck.
Just luck,
This,
yeah.
And the same luck, but on the negative side, that someone born in North Korea has.
Yeah.
Where
I can't
they
believe
just
that.
so,
I'm
they
like, oh my
just so
gosh.
happen to be born into a state
You
where you're
can't leave.
instantly a slave.
Yeah, it's like, how's that fair? I just don't understand. Like, that's where
just
it's just
pure
like,
luck.
and then people are literally like arguing and like getting into fights, and like you think about it, I'm arguing with this person about nothing. It's like, what are you even arguing about? And there's people that are trapped, can't even leave their country. It's like,
And forced into work labor until they die.
you
That's the
people are
reality of
ungrateful. That's the thing.
majority
You
of-
have too much. You have too much time on your hands. You can just go to an LCBO and you can just get alcohol and then take your rage out on people. Like, that's not okay on any level.
Yeah, and there's other examples like how I'd never, like, I'd gotten one speeding ticket before, but otherwise I got like a perfectly clean record.
Okay.
But then this past year, which just coincidentally also happened to be the year that I didn't drink for the first time since I started,
Okay.
I got 3 speeding tickets, and now I got
Whoa.
all these demerit points where if I get
Wow.
another one, I'm screwed.
You don't
And
have
it's like,
license.
and I'm like so upset about it right when it happens. But then if I take a moment to just think about what happened, it's like, well, I was speeding.
Yeah.
Even though it may have been with the flow of traffic, so it may not have seemed fair in that sense, where it's like everyone was going 120. But I was speeding, and by pure luck, it wasn't because I was me and they were just gunning out for me. They were just looking for some guy, and they were like, this Joe guy. It was just luck. They could have
just
pulled over the person.
anybody.
Yeah, they could have waited 1 second, or they could have been like 5 minutes down the road and not have seen me and seen the person right behind me and pulled them over. But they just so happened to get me. It's the same reason why I didn't get a ticket for like 7 years of me driving, is just because, just pure luck. They just so happen to get other people. Every single day I see people pulled over on the side of the road, and it's like, that could have been me. It's
Yeah,
just pure
exactly. It
luck.
could have been you. And then you have to, like, again, put it into your everyday life and just be
Like, there's no control.
thankful of, like, you know what? Hey, at the end of the day, I'm safe. I'm happy. Like,
Yeah, I'm still alive.
it could just be a sign for me where it's just, this is just a sign from above where I've made better choices in my life. And thank God I'm not drinking and speeding,
Yeah,
which is not okay
it's
at all. But
yeah, it's even like you could get struck by lightning at any point. That's like an actual reality. It's the odds are very low, but they're never zero. You can just
Yeah.
walk outside and get
Mm,
struck
struck
by
by
dry lightning is a thing where it comes up from the ground. There's so many phenomenon that could happen. An asteroid, a small one, could just hit you right in the head and go through you. So many things could kill you, but you're not dead yet. You're alive.
Yeah.
And the odds that you're alive have nothing to do with you. There's no control in it at all. You just so happen to be, born in Canada or America or Australia or wherever you're listening to this.
Yeah.
And you just so happen to be born into a world that has the technology that we currently have to listen to podcasts. None of this was in your control.
Yeah.
We just so happen to find ourselves here. And for that, even with all of the shortcomings of my own personal defects, like my binging, obsessive personality, I have positive attributes about myself. And it's better to focus on those and have the perspective that you're alive and you're
human,
able to even try to pursue happiness at all compared to other countries where there's a regime that would not allow you to have free
Because
speech.
what you're doing now is really clouding your happiness. That's for sure. And anybody listening to this, really, you are clouding. Again, I'll say it again. You're clouding your happiness by carrying on to drink. You're clouding your happiness, and you're not going to be able to enjoy that happiness until you are clean. And and I mentioned it in previous episodes too before, I like to say the high or the drunk or whatever you like to call it when you are, I used to say levy way back in the day.
The levy?
I used to say, like, after I had too much wine, I'd be like, wow, I'm like really levy right now. I just made it up one day. I'm like, I'm levy. Like, I'm just like, okay.
You
like,
took the Chevy to the levy.
Yeah, I'm just levy right now. So, like,
it,
whatever you are, I can guarantee you may think that feels amazing and it's great. But let me tell you this. You get a 10 times better levy, 10 times better high when you check off certain things on your goal list and go for what you have inside of your head, because you don't get to see those things inside of your head come fully out in vision because you're clouded by the alcohol.
Yeah. The best high that you can ever experience, aside from heroin, just kidding, all jokes aside, the best high that you can ever experience is through personal achievement. Any athlete can tell you that.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Any architect or doctor that successfully completes a surgery, anyone that finishes a project, whether it's in marketing or whether it's a book or a movie, or if you're landscaping, if you just finished a yard that you'd been working on for like a month straight, when you finish that project and you can just feel that progress happening, and then you reach that milestone, whether it's an endlessly continual thing like your fitness, or whether it's a specific project where you finish it and you can just take a step back and look at it.
It's like, whoo, that is literally
You're
priceless.
so happy you can die.
Priceless. Yep. So happy you can die, literally.
That's my feeling. And I recently felt it 4 days ago. I finished my 4th book, and I'd been working on that for 4 years. Well, kind of on and off, but I'd started in 2016, but I finally finished my 4th book recently. And the feeling that I had, the best way to describe it, is it was beyond happy, and not like ecstasy, like I was coming my pants. It's like, it wasn't a happiness. It felt more like completeness. Like I literally could just die.
Yeah,
like I
it's
was
like
I'm good. I'm
you
done
don't
now.
even know what
It's
the
like,
feeling
I can
is
die right
like.
now,
Yeah,
I'm
it's like you
good.
don't even know. It's like,
It's
wow,
beyond
I can't believe
happiness.
just like
It's
I
just
hate
this
this.
weird completeness or this peace where you're like,
I get that so much for my business. It's insane. Like,
Yeah.
it's like every time like I create content, or like for myself, even just for like my own personal like business, I'm doing it for other businesses, but just for my own business, I'm my hardest critique. And like, I like saying critique instead of critic.
no, it's good.
I don't know why, but I'm like my hardest critique. And like, I don't know, I just feel like I just get so much pleasure from being able to have the ability to like provide somebody else with happiness. Like, and like, for instance, I get inquiries of like, can you help me with this? I help somebody and they're like, thank you. You literally genuinely helped me. Like, the feeling to be able to help other people. And just, for instance, this podcast, for example, if we're just able to help one person, we've mentioned this before, if we're able to help one person, we have done our job.
We did it, yeah.
I think last week, wasn't maybe last week or the week before that, we just had mentioned that even if we didn't get views or anything like this, we would still do it, because it's just something to have a goal. Like, I've always had a goal of, for instance, starting my own podcast and things like this, or talking and sharing my experiences with others. This is just something, but then it's like, wow, 2019, 2018, 2017, 2020, you can make a podcast. You're in the 20th century. You can make a podcast. Like, why not? Like, why not? But you have to be able to organize and say, you know what? I have a goal. I want to set that goal. Put it up in your, like, I like to say my shelf, my manifesting shelf. So I put it on my manifesting shelf, and when I can get to it, I can get to it. I put it out in the world, and then boom, Joe shows up. Hi,
Hey.
here we are.
Yeah.
Like literally episode. How many episodes in we're at right now?
We got 5 so far. We're
Going on
working our way
episode
up.
6. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's just like after now we've created a whole profile and all these things where it's like that is what drives you. That is literally priceless. And that, oh man, just even when you get that little DM or that inquiry or anything where it's just like somebody is just seeing how much effort and work you've put into something, oof, it's just too good. It's just like, oh my goodness, like
Yeah,
pour me another glass of that.
Yeah. Well, it's the cherry on top. The point isn't to get that. The point is making it, and then you're good. And then after, people start to see, and you're like, what? Like, it's the only expectation I have is that we do this. And we're doing it. So
Yeah.
we've succeeded.
Right.
And now we're just going. And it's like, the future results of whether or not this gets a following it would just be the cherry on top.
Yeah, it's
Be
like,
the
oh,
icing.
great. Oh, cool. They're following. Awesome. But you know, we're just doing it because we love to do it and we want to share experiences. And if it's only 7 years from now, only 10 people listen, well. But at least we got to do what we wanted to do and we got to help somebody or along their path. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah,
something.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where, honestly, guys, we're going to give it a close up.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, we'll
We can
close.
find the conclusion.
And just, you know, like really, oh man, it's like that is just the point of, again, acceptance and then the advancing. When you have accepted it, it's literally like how can I
It's a sweet release. It's the same as almost dying, like what happened to the
it's like
the
taking
Russian
a pill
man.
of something.
When
Yeah.
when you get that experience of a mental breakdown
Mm-hmm.
or this feeling of having so much that you just can't take anymore, this flowing upstream, when you finally let go, you get that sensation
Oh,
of
man.
peace that comes over you.
Yeah.
That you finally are able to see the truth. Your eyes are finally open.
You're finally able to hear the river, how calm it is, how
Yeah.
you really get to see its inner structure, see how clear the water is. And all this time you're making so much debris in the water. You're making so much, you're just doing too much where it's like, just sit back, let yourself tell you what's wrong and what's right. And you'll know because everybody's going to be different. Again, each equation is different.
Yeah. Every person has their own
Find deep down what is going to make you happy at the end of the day and be able to let you advance. And like I said, it's like I don't want to refer to a pill, but it's like a perfect is like a glass of something. Say we're think of it as like have that glass of your happiness instead of it being a glass of whatever your drink may be. Yeah, you know what I mean? That special drink that you may be on. For me, it was wine. What was your show?
Mine was beer. Mostly.
Beer.
But yeah.
Wine. So it's like pour yourself up a glass of happiness
Yeah.
and drink on that.
Drink on it.
Yeah.
And until next time.
Yeah,
We
until
will
next
see
time,
you
guys.
guys later.
Always a pleasure. Take it easy. It's 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 a pleasure.